Hi everyone and welcome to Sao Paulo, Brazil for qualifying of round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. It's an absolutely glorious day. Temperatures are gonna get into the 30s. It's ridiculously hot, and I can tell you that the third race in a row, we've got a brand new track, and the excitement here in Sao Paulo is, how can I say? It's samba-tastic, ladies and gentlemen. We're really looking forward to it, and we've got two great people alongside me who are going to talk us through today's proceedings. First up is Nelson Piquet Jr., Season 1 champion, and of course we've got the guy who's just bought his outfit from a catalogue down the road. Oliver Askew is with us. He looks absolutely fantastic. We are buzzing, we're raring to go. Nelson, we'll start with you. This is a real opportunity for us to show all the racing fans in Brazil what Formula E can offer to the world.
Brazil's been waiting for this championship since 9 years since we won the first championship. I would love to be part of this, but I'm on the other side, which is fine. But Brazil's loving this. Formula E has been in the talk so much in Brazil after winning 2 world championships, me and Lucas. So I'm really happy that they're finally managing to see this amazing event.
Yeah, it's really, really special. Everyone's really excited. Oliver, we had Hyderabad, then we had Cape Town, and now we've got Sao Paulo, another new track in the Formula E calendar. It must be tough for the teams for constant prep on these new tracks.
Yeah, and it's unlike many other Formula E tracks, this one. You have very long straightaways, heavy braking zones, the highest energy braking here up next to any other track on the calendar. So I think we can expect some fantastic racing here this weekend. It's fantastic to see the cars finally in anger in FP2 this morning, and I think we're in for a good day.
Yeah, excellent stuff. That's why we're here. If we were here for a bad day, Oliver, I think we'd all down our mics and leave and go to a bar and watch it on telly and let someone else do it. Let's talk about the championship. Sat at the top of the table, we have Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche. He didn't secure any points last time out in Cape Town, crashed out on turn 1. Let's take a quick look at that incident because it has affected the fact that he's not scored any points in Cape Town. So here you go, just talk us through this, Oliver.
Yeah, so right now, 18 points ahead of his championship rival, Jake Dennis, and 30 points ahead of John-Eric Vergne. So all he needs to do is just continue to finish in the points, just a decent points position. And yeah, in that situation there, it looked like he just locked up the brakes and ran into the competitor in front of him. So it seemed like a racing incident, not what he wants as a championship leader. So he'll be looking to rebound here.
Antonio Felix da Costa was atop of the podium, Nelson. It was an awesome series of overtakes that got him there. Just talk us through those.
The most amazing drive I've seen probably in a driver in many years. After suffering a lot of pressure for a poor start of the season, doing a mistake, getting the attack mode, and being able to come, passing Jev, 2 laps to go, the most fearful driver to get around him, and he managed to win the race. For me, it was the most amazing drive I've seen in Formula E. Yeah, all 9 seasons.
It was absolutely outrageous. It really was. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to encourage you to go and watch it back on social media because that was a special moment in Formula E history. All right, let's go over to Nicky Shields, who is down in the pit somewhere.
This season, we have been treated to some impressive rookie performances, but particularly from Sasha Frenestras, who put in, well, you took the pole position last time out in Cape Town, which turned out to be the fastest lap in Formula E history. Huge congratulations. What an achievement.
Thank you very much. To be honest, it's quite a cool record to have. Also, I think second youngest ever driver to score pole position. So overall, it was a good week, and of course the race was a bit unfortunate, but yeah, very happy about having that record, and hopefully we can score other records in the future in this championship.
Absolutely. Now, your qualifying performance has been absolutely sterling so far, into the duels 3 times already. But let's talk about that incident. You were looking so strong in Cape Town towards the end of the race. A bit of a controversial crash with Nick Cassidy. What happened from your perspective?
I mean, it was, well, of course, last lap, so we were fighting for a podium position, and, you know, it's always tricky situations when you want to fight for that position. And nothing, I think he was just a little bit optimistic, trying to overtake into turn 7. We did spoke a few weeks back just to clarify, you know, what happened and, you know, to clarify everything. And, yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Of course, I think there was a big chance of scoring my first ever podium in a World Championship. I was extremely excited for that. And, yeah, it was just an unfortunate contact where he tried to overtake, but not really like fully committed. So he just had a bit of the front wing there, and I just turned in because I couldn't see him very well with the mirrors, so we're struggling a little bit to see behind. and he just touched me a little bit, and of course I lost the rear touch, crash into the wall. So it was a bit of a shame because I think nobody overtook in turn 7 in the whole weekend, and he tried to do that. So it's a shame, but this is racing, you know, there is frustration moments, and we need to keep on learning from that. And I'm still fairly new to the championship, so I need to get used to these kind of things maybe, and yeah, put the head up and do better next time.
Well, hopefully time for a bit of redemption this weekend. And fingers crossed, I know the efficiency hasn't been the best that we've seen from the Nissan powertrain, so that is going to be a bit of a struggle. However, the qualifying performance is very much there, so we really hope that sets you up for a great race in Sao Paulo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and yeah, hopefully, let's see. It's going to be really hot. Sao Paulo, a lot of people, so that's going to be fun. So let's see what the race brings.
Yeah, keep cool. Yeah. Thanks, Sasha Fenestras.
All right, thanks, Nikki, and Fenestras as well. Absolutely awesome driver for the Nissan. Now, the location that we're at is the Sambadrome, which is the home of the Sao Paulo Carnival. So this is a real street circuit, and there are several bumps on the track, which are causing several incidents, shall we say, Nelson?
Yeah, we saw Antonio Filo da Costa yesterday airboning a little bit because it's really the ideal line over there. You have to come to the right to be able to have a good straight line braking, but there's a bump right over there. So today they're going to paint a little bit. Obviously, the drivers already know about it, but just to make sure when you're the first few laps fighting in the traffic, cars everywhere, just to remind the driver that there is going to be a big bump over there. They're all going to avoid it, obviously, but it's just a bit of a precaution just to make sure drivers don't, you know. We've had that before in London in the first race.
Yes.
In Battersea Park, we had one of those big bumps already.
And in Rome as well, going up the hill.
Yeah. These cars are strong enough. Drivers know what they're doing, but it just adds a little bit of a spice to the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish the FIA would take over my local council and paint the checkered flag over all the potholes that we have around us. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, enough about that. What kind of race can we expect?
Look, because of the big straights, and we know the drag effect in these cars, we know these cars, all the cars are following each other to save energy. We're going to see, it's going to be interesting to see the leader backing off and letting B and P2 to try to save as much energy, and then the race is going to be decided really at the end of the race.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Nelson. It's time to head over to our commentary team for qualifying for round 6 of the championship.
Time to go qualifying then for round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship in Sao Paulo, the first Formula E race in Brazil. And in the first group, it will be the drivers who are in the odd positions in the championship, first, third, fifth, etc. So we've got Pascal Wehrlein out, Jean-Eric Verne, Nick Cassidy, René Rast, Hughes, Lothar Van Dorn, Sete Camara, Roland, Mortara and Muller. Those will be the 11 drivers battling it out to be in the top 4 who will advance through to the duels, which becomes a sort of head-to-head knockout format. There you can see the Tietê River on the right-hand side that runs through Sao Paulo, eventually joins the Parana River and ends up at Iguazu Falls down on the Brazilian-Argentinian border. But the fans are packing into the grandstands here, such passion in Brazil, and that passion is almost matched by the man alongside me in the commentary box, Karun Chandok, the former Formula 1 driver and Mahindra Formula E driver. Brazil's just such a magical motorsport place, isn't it?
Absolutely is. I mean, session's gone green there, and there's so much history, so many great drivers, so much entertainment in terms of the racing we've had at Rio and Sao Paulo, and as you say, Jack, a lot of passion amongst the spectators there.
Get involved on the Formula E Predictor. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to the Formula E app, and you can play along as the session unfolds, even through the duel stages. So that's a lot of fun, and we look forward to seeing what you reckon here. Now this is turns 1 and 2. Attack mode is there at turn 3, and then this really long back straight, which is punctuated by a chicane at turns 4, 5 and 6 here. A lot of long straights, a lot of heavy braking zones.
And this is a track where braking confidence for the drivers and braking stability for the cars will be absolutely vital. And at the moment, we've got to talk about qualifying, because we'll talk about regen and the effect of the braking when we get to the race. But at the moment, the drivers want to be able to have the car underneath them when they use their left leg and apply the brakes. They want the car to be stable and not moving around. And the people who've been able to tune in the electronics, because there's a lot of that involved in Formula E. For those of you who haven't seen it before, they've got really small brake discs as such. So much of the braking happens with the motors recovering the energy. So getting the software right will be critical. I don't think they've quite got that spot on yet on the René Rast McLaren.
No, a little bit of a lock-up for him coming into turn 3. So this session is 12 minutes long. You have to do a lap in the first 6 minutes and a lap in the second 6 minutes. Really interesting to see what tyre strategy is here as well. This is the run down towards the first corner. Really long straight, some of the probably the highest speed we've ever seen in Formula E. But tyre-wise, it's not that, even though the track temperature is pretty high, it's not a tough track on the tyre in the way that Cape Town was, because it's all kind of slow speed corners.
Yeah, you've got, as you say, slow speed corners like we're looking at here, turns 4, 5 and 6. And you've actually got long straights for the tyres to cool down. So, as you said, even though it's a sweltering hot day outside, you can see the heat haze as we look down this start-finish straight, sorry, or the back straight here. You can see the heat haze coming through. But actually, it's those long corners that we used to have at Cape Town a few weeks ago. That's what puts the energy and the heat in the tyres. But here, Jack, the tricky thing is you've got traction zone, where they're trying to put down a lot of power through the rear axle. And that in particular is where the rear tyres start to overheat. So I won't be surprised to see people pitting to put cool tyres on sort of halfway through the session.
So Nick Cassidy across the line, a 1 minute 13.4. They are, as Roland comes through now in the Mahindra, and he does a 13.7. They run, don't run in full power for this qualifying groups. Full power comes for 350 kilowatts when you get through to the duels stages. A 13.2 for Pascal Wehrlein as he finishes his first lap. Verne slots into 4th place, but you can see Verne, Sete Camera, Mortara all on build laps, and then they will start pushing. Here's Wehrlein's radio.
Most other cars look like they're doing out prep.
So that's Wehrlein being told that most of the other cars are doing an out lap and then a prep lap and then pushing. Here comes Lotterer through the final corner, and he goes second fastest, a 10th slower than Pascal Wehrlein. But all of those drivers on the tower on the left-hand side that are 10, 12 seconds off the pace, they are pushing now.
And this is interesting to see because so far this season, the Porsche powertrain cars, so those are the Andretti and the Works Porsche cars, haven't been particularly strong in qualifying. They've been brilliant in the races, but unlike this man we're seeing on screen, Jake Hughes, who has been superb in qualifying, top 3 in his first 3 weekends as a Formula E driver. I believe that Porsche have done a lot of work, haven't they, between the last race at Cape Town and here, just to try and optimize some of the systems and the software that I was talking about before, and just give the drivers the confidence and grip under braking.
Yeah, Antonio Felix da Costa saying earlier on that they've made a lot of software updates to this to try and help that, because that was their weakness, and da Costa ended up being quickest in the practice session earlier on this morning. Now he will be out in the next session. It's a DS Penske 1-2. Good luck from Stoffel van Dorn then, because he's only made the duels once this season, the reigning champion. That was in De Rea, and he started 8th. The last 2 E-Prix, he's qualified 17th and 14th on the grid.
I think this track conditions here, these track conditions, will suit the DS Penske's. They struggle to get the tyres into the right window when it's cool, but it's obviously not. It's swelteringly hot out there. And I think this could be a strong weekend for both their qualifiers.
Eduardo Mortara attacking the curbs down at turns 4, 5 and 6 as he makes his way then back out onto the next. So apologies, that's at turns 1 and 2, and now into turn 3, the hairpin right-hander for Mortara. Cassidy has returned to the pit lane, and then you can see James Rossiter.
They've had a dreadful start to the season, haven't they, Maserati? I mean, they've only scored 3 points. I think Mortara's only finished as many races as he's got points.
Yeah,
3 and 3. So, for a driver who was in contention for the championship last year with the Venturi team, it's not really worked out. Ooh, broke down.
And that's Sete Camera, the Brazilian in his home race, has ground to a halt by the looks of things. Maybe he's hit a wall somewhere, but the red flag is out with 6 minutes and 10 seconds to go. So red flag deployed. Everybody was kind of returning to the pit lane anyway, so that is not going to be too much of an issue.
I still have limp home. Plus, minus, and then power cycle, yeah?
So that's Sete Camera.
That's the Formula E version of Alt Control Delete.
Yeah, exactly. So is he just slowing down, or does he clip something? Oh, he has a big lockup, goes straight on over the chicane, Okay, so he's had an electrical issue there, hasn't he? He's had a technological problem. This is on board with him. Listen to this, coming towards the chicane. Yeah, on the brakes, but the car's just not slowing down.
Yeah, it's some sort of electronic glitch, I think, with the braking system. It's good to see him back up and running. Hopefully, if he could just crawl back to the pits, and then that might give the team a chance to have another look at it and plug their magic laptops in and get it all sorted out. So, but as you said, Jack, actually, it's not really a problem for everyone else.
I'm sorry. Yeah, red flag. I went down immediately.
Okay, he's sort of apologising for something. Didn't really look like it was his fault, to be honest with you. But a lovely guy, Sergio Sete-Camera, a really cool guy. He actually has started a sort of charity foundation thing that aims to get young people into motorsport, young Brazilians into sort of motorsport engineering, and not necessarily driving, but the sort of whole background of motorsport, which is a really, really cool thing that Sete-Camera has set up. He's making his way back to the pit lane, so hopefully the lights will go.
Attention all teams.
Here we go.
Attention all teams from race control. Just as a heads up, we'll give you guys a 1-minute warning to queue in the pit lane, has been specified in the driver briefing notes.
So a 1-minute warning from Scott Elkins in the middle there, because this is a very rare. It's the first time in Formula E history that the cars can queue up in the pit lane on the way out. Normally, you have to wait in the garage until the light goes green, and that's when we see everyone burst out of the garage. But because the pit lane here is opposite each other, that was obviously deemed to be not a great plan. So for the first time, you can queue up in the pit lane, which is it's not that exciting. It excited me.
Did it?
Yeah, it did.
Really?
But that's the kind of thing that does excite me.
You need to get out more.
I am aware of this. There's Stoffel Van Dorn, second quickest at the moment. Lotterer down in 6th.
Yeah, this is a good chance for them all to put on their other set of tyres, isn't it? You know, it means mechanics can work under slightly less pressure because there's no time limitation there. Wow, look, I mean.
Only concern, Pascal, is that your tyre temps are going to be too high for the last push for the track evolutions at its best.
So that's them discussing their run plan, basically.
It's discussing, I think, when to leave the pits.
Yeah.
You know, if they go too early, then you could do more laps. If you go straight away, you could probably do 4 laps, I think. But then with every lap you do, the tyres get hotter and hotter. So I think there's that debate. Clearly, Envision have decided with, I think it was Cassidy going to the end of the pit lane, that they've decided to go straight away. We'll see what Fairline does do, but I just think from a helicopter shot, you just forget what a massive city Sao Paulo is, isn't it? It's such a sprawling city. 4th
largest in the world in terms of population, almost 22 million. Only Shanghai, Delhi and Tokyo are more populous than Sao Paulo. Largest city in the Americas, largest city in the Western Hemisphere, largest city in the Southern Hemisphere.
I said if I have really the time to do a prep lap, then I want the new front tires.
So Vern talking about it as well. He said if I have time to do a prep lap, then I want new front tires. But the suggestion being, if he does do a prep lap, he doesn't want new front tires.
Exactly. So what he's saying is, if he's got time to.
Okay, and we are on the original plan, so we'll be out build push.
Outbuild push for Hughes.
Yeah, which is what Jeff was saying there. If he's got time to do that build lap, and that's about building the temperature and the pressures up in a comfortable way for the front tires to just get it in the right window for when the drivers feel the grip. And that is massively important. Getting that grip on the front axle in the right position, you know, just in that right temperature and pressure window. You get those cues the first time you press the brakes, the first time you turn the wheel into that first corner, and it kind of sets you up for the rest of the lap.
Guemi's ready to go, isn't he? Helmet on and everything ahead of the second group session.
Okay, the rhythm of the out and prep lap needs to be a bit quicker than the run before if we have time to do this sequence.
So Vern being told needs to be a bit quicker if you want time to do a second lap, and Sete-Camera is back out there then, so that's good. Sergio Sete-Camera is back out on the circuit. So calls the red flag and then can still get running, so that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, good to see it was just an electronic issue, clearly, and they've managed to get it going again. Here we go, so Cassidy's going to be the first one post-red flag to get a lap on the board, I think.
So Cassidy over the line. He's the first driver to start his flying lap, but he's on a build lap here because he's weaving from left to right. Sergio De Camera is now under investigation for red flag procedure, so maybe
that's what he was apologising for.
Yeah, potentially. 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Looks like most are doing a building prep lap.
And I think that's because what we were saying before, Jack, even though the track is so hot, you know, the actual temperature, but there aren't enough long radius corners to get the front tyres warmed up in the right window you need. So it's taking an extra lap to just get those front tyres in the right window. It's very easy with the rears because you use your right foot and put a bit of energy and heat into it. That's pretty easy, but they just need a lap to build the confidence they need for the front tyres. But Jean-Luc Verne here, he knows what he's doing, isn't he? His qualifying form has improved. If you consider where they were at the start of the season,
yeah,
it's really improved in the last few races.
And he's on a push lap here, Jean-Eric Verne. He's a 10th down in Sector 1. There was some thoughts this weekend that you could do a out push. Pascal Wehrlein is just coming down into turns 1 and 2 now, and he's pushing, I think. Wehrlein, as he comes into the first couple of corners.
Verne's backed out a bit.
Yeah, Verne has backed off. As they come down the back straight now, here's Lotterer's radio.
They also look like they are doing build lap. Actually, looks like they are doing build lap on race, so you should all be in the same sequence.
So Lotterer has only just left the pit lane, so has Rast and Hughes, so they're just doing out push. As we're on board here with Wehrlein. Cassidy's on a push lap now, 3/10 up in Sector 1. Nico Muller's gone second fastest in the apt, which is they're doing a bit of a different strategy to everybody else, but they're looking strong at the moment. Here's Pascal Wehrlein coming through the middle sector after turns 7 and 8, and he's 100th up on Jean-Eric Verne and taps the wall. Is there going to be damage to the Porsche there? He got really close to it. Actually, it was Da Costa got really close to that wall earlier on this morning. Wehrlein seems to still be doing all right, pushing into the final corner. Rear looking a little leery, comes out across the line, and Pascal Wehrlein is half a second down on Jean-Eric Verne, the championship leader.
That's not going to be enough. That is going to be a big issue, I think, for him as these drivers are coming through. Look, here comes Cassidy straight away to the top of the times, and there are 5 other drivers, Jack, I can see, who are all improving on Wehrlein's time. This is going to be big trouble. Roland only 7th. This is going to be trouble for Wehrlein, I think.
He's got time to do a cool lap and then push again, potentially. Pascal Wehrlein, way! That is Jean-Eric Verne all over the shop. Coming out of turn 8, laying down some serious rubber. Into the pits comes Lotterer. Don't know what's gone on with Lotterer.
That's P1. Miller behind should be on sync with us.
Cassidy goes to the top of the times, but Van Dorn now beats him. I think Lotterer must have hit the wall because he did the fastest middle sector of anyone, but then has come into the pits, so Lotterer must have had an accident out there. Here comes Jake Hughes. He's been a qualifying maestro so far this season, and he's starting his flying lap now, down towards turn 1. The same is true of René Rast. The 2 McLarens starting their laps now, down towards the first corner with 1 minute and 15 seconds left on the clock.
Right, so the 2 McLarens are the ones we want to be watching on this lap. Wehrlein, let's see, he might have got away without damage. I think if he's, as you said rightly, Jack, if he's got no damage, he can do another lap. But there's a big if there, because it was a reasonable whack. Here we go, on board René Rast, under braking, big bumps there as you try and get the nose in, which he does nicely into 4, round 5, kink of 6. And the first sector time for René Rast. Not brilliant. Jake Hughes quicker, isn't he?
Rast is as far away in the first sector as he is on his best lap. Eduardo Mortara jumps up into 4th position. Hughes' first sector is not that great as well, and that's right up to the wall on the exit of turn 7. Now through 8, little kink at 9. Here's Hughes, he's 3/10 down after the middle sector, so he might improve here, Jake Hughes, but not particularly strong, and Rast has backed off to go again. So Rast is going again, as he comes out of the final. Sorry, that's Hughes, I think, coming across the line. No, that was Rast backing off to go again. Here comes Jake Hughes, and he goes second fastest. Very quick final sector from Jake Hughes. So at the moment, it's Van Dorn, Hughes, Cassidy, and Verne. Checker flag is out. What can Pascal Wehrlein do? He's fighting the car again, coming out of turn 8.
But he's slow, Jack. He's slow in the middle sector. So he did improve a little bit in the first part of the lap, but he's down. So he needs a monumental effort in the final couple of corners here if he wants to drag himself into the duel. Still down at P7.
The championship leader hasn't started outside the top 10 this season, but it's going to be the 7th row of the grid for Pascal Wehrlein in Sao Paulo. Eduardo Mortara fights the car through the final corner and goes quickest. Mortara's into the duels by the looks of things, but Van Dorn's improving. Hughes is improving. Cassidy now goes fastest, 400ths ahead of Eduardo Mortara. Roland is running in 10th place and is a long way off the pace, so this isn't going to be doing anything for him. Van Dorn is up in the middle sector. Hughes is on another good lap. He's doing a double push. Sete Camara goes 5th in the Neo. He misses out on the duels at his home E-Prix. Van Dorn coming through now, the final couple of corners. Across the line comes, Van Dorn goes fastest. Rast only goes up into 7th. And Hughes is still in 4th place, and he might just make it through, and he does. Jake Hughes is through. Verne misses out. Jean-Eric Verne, podium in the last 2 races, will start on the 5th row of the grid. René Rast in 6th. Muller doing a great job to out-qualify Pascal Wehrlein. It's 8th row of the grid for Pascal Wehrlein and Porsche. That's really not good for their championship challenge. Yes, they've got strong race pace, but it's a very different kettle of fish to be coming through from 8th, 9th on the grid as Wehrlein's been doing, but coming through from 15th or 16th on the grid is what he will have to do later on today. Really tough stuff for the Porsche team. Here's Van Dorn's radio.
So it's 1/10 margin over the second, which is Cassidy's, and we have Mortara.
Stoffel Van Dorn into the duels for the 2nd time this season, and finally the Dutchman is looking like he's got a bit of pace out there.
Tell you what though, Pascal Wehrlein, championship leader,
Yeah.
8th row of the grid.
Stoffel Van Dorn, Nick Cassidy, Eduardo Mortara and Jake Hughes are the drivers that will advance through to the next part of qualifying. Rast missing out, Muller missing out, Wehrlein missing out in 8th position. So, remarkable stuff, and a few more twists in the Formula E tale. Let's head down and join Nikki Shields.
So Alex Hoy, team principal at Neo 333, just talk us through what was going on with Sergei Sete Camara in that session and any issues with the car.
It's quite a shame because at the end Sergio did a lap that not enough to get in the duel, but P5 still like top 10 position, good to start in the race, but because we got issues in the first run, causing a red flag. Sergio reset the car, come back, limp mode, and then we go again. But there's a rule saying if you cause a red flag, then you need to cancel your quickest lap. So in the final goal, he did 2 laps, the quickest one enough to be P5 in the group, which not too bad a position to start, but because he caused a red flag in the first run, not his fault, that the lap being deleted, and then his second best effort, just enough for P9 in the group. So will be he was starting in relatively back in the grid, but it's a shame because he did nothing wrong, not getting a deal, but just still top 10 positions. But we miss it for something a bit out of our control. So I think, to be honest, I think this route need to be a bit reviewed because I think it's not making so much sense for removing a lap from qualify, which is not your problem. Yeah.
Well, hopefully those technical issues won't impair any race performance, and it's been great to watch Sergei Sete Camara's performance this season, and hopefully the team crowd will get behind him. Thank you so much, Alex. Exactly. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Interesting that we talked about that bump on the track. They have highlighted it, the FIA, by painting some warning signs over it, but it caused a reset in the car. You've driven this car, and you've driven many Formula E cars. What does a reset mean?
Well, it's just a glitch on the software system. Must have went up very high in revs, and it might have cut out. They didn't tell us exactly what happened, but same for everybody. So It's a shame for him, for the homeboy, but let's see what happens in the race.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Let's take a look at the monitor. We had a couple of drivers tapping the wall as well. This course really proving itself. This is Sergio going back over the bump. We saw the paint. Awesome stuff. All right, let's go back to comms.
Pascal Wehrlein will start 8th on the grid. No, sorry, the 8th row of the grid for the race later on today. That is going to be quite remarkable and tough for him to come through the field. But focus now is on the Jake Dennises of this world, the Antonio Felix da Costas of this world, because if they can get into the duels, then, Karun, they can start to close that 18-point gap that Pascal Wehrlein has.
This is a massive session for Jake Dennis. He's come off the back of two pretty disappointing weekends, 16th and 13th in the last two races, although you'd have to say the one in Hyderabad 2 races ago wasn't really his fault, got taken out. So he needs to get his championship campaign back on track, and Wehrlein's given him a great opportunity here. You know, if he could get himself in the duels and up at the sharp end,
Robin
Freins has broken down.
Robin Freins back in
aware,
the...
This is race control. We have a car stop, drivers right at the pit exit. Car stop, drivers right at pit exit.
Robin Freins making his return to Formula E after missing the last 4 races after breaking his hand in the opening race of the season in Mexico City, and he's ground to a halt on his way out the pits. And that's the Kelvin van der Linde car that broke down all the time last few races.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like we saw Kelvin van der Linde breaking down, leaving pit exit on more than one occasion, didn't we? So, yeah, something clearly not right still on the software side with that one. So what are we going to do here? I mean, they're clearly trying to reset it.
I have nothing, man, nothing. I have no fault on the steering wheel, nothing. Nothing happening when I go on power.
Wow, not ideal. Freins hasn't completed a racing lap yet in Formula E this season. Meanwhile, his teammate Nico Müller, 7th in that group, first group qualifying, was the best apt performance of the season so far. And Freins just has nothing. He's just done a power reset, as you can tell, because the lights just came back on. I'm presuming, anyway. And hopefully now maybe he'll have a bit of power. He's in a...
Yeah.
Hey, there he goes. Robin's off and away. And
that's good. So we don't need to red flag the session.
Yeah.
Everyone else are sort of driving around doing their build laps. Look at the straight behind him. It's a really long straight, and there's nobody there. So he's going to have nice free space. It would have upset his rhythm a little bit because it means that he can't do the tyre preparation that he would like. Look at these guys messing around. That looks like Mitch Evans, doesn't it?
yeah, both of the Jaguars are in this session. Here's Gunter.
So scenario 2 and acknowledge when ready, we push next lap. Okay, track is clear.
Gunter being told he can push. He's had some strong qualifyings this year, Gunter, but a lot of errors as well. As the Maserati man comes down into the first corner, just about getting it stopped.
Yeah, they're using a lot of curb, aren't they?
Yeah.
That, through both of these chicanes, 1, 2, and then again this one coming up 4, 5. You've got to make sure you avoid the bumps. Stay just to the left-hand side of it, as Gunther's doing. We'll see it here, that patch of tarmac, as he does, and car moving around a little bit on the braking. This is a great helicopter angle here to see him going through that very, very tight left-hand part of the chicane. I mean, that's got to be 110, 120 degrees, the angle of that corner. So, yeah, super tight as he now charges up towards turn 7 and 8. Double right-hander here. Really important not to be greedy with the power on the way out and touch the wall as we've seen some others do, like Pascal Wehrlein. But Gunther on a decent lap here. He's gone well in the middle sector of the lap. Oh, there's definitely somebody's hit the wall in the background there, Jack. There's a bit of smoke and some debris rolling around, so we'll come back to that. But first, Gunther up to the line.
Through he comes, a 1 minute 13.305 for Gunter. Sebastian Buemi goes into second place, 2/10 slower than Gunter in the Maserati. The Nissans in this session as well. Bird has pitted, and De Grassi has pitted, and that means Bird might not get a lap in here. So I wonder if it was Bird that hit the wall, potentially, because he's done the fastest middle sector of anyone. As Ticktum comes across the line to go third fastest, and Evans then jumps up into third place, but Bird and De Grassi, Da Costa fastest in the Tag Heuer Porsche. Dennis down in 8th, and Buemi's on a push lap now in the Envision. Freins is on a push lap 2. He goes 9th fastest as he comes through. And So Buemi is now coming through the middle sector. Nato's on a push lap as well. Freins is getting a little bit loose as he comes down into the first couple of corners. Dennis just did a cool down lap, so he's pushing now as he comes out of turn 3.
Yeah, Freins behind him is going to pick up a decent slipstream there. Only 0.12 of a second between the top 5, so it's incredibly close so far in this group. Here's Buemi, personal best in the first 2 sectors, up to the final corner now. And it's a decent effort here. This could put him at the top. Yes, it does. A 13-0. So, again, still super close, but watch Jake Dennis, Jack, because at the moment, he's just coming up to the second sector time.
Yeah, so we'll see what Dennis can do. He is... Fenestraz goes 4th fastest, doesn't really improve on that lap. Nato did improve and goes a bit of 3rd, but here we are now with Jake Dennis coming towards the left-hand kink of turn 9, which slows into turn 10. Big opportunity this for Jake Dennis to get his championship challenge back on track after failing to score in the last 2 races. Second place man in the championship, 2nd fastest in the early stages of this group qualifying. Bird and Degrassi, I don't think they're going to be qualifying. I think both must have hit the wall on their push laps, but we'll wait and see. But they haven't set a lap time in the first 6 minutes. Bird leaving the pit lane. I mean, I say he hasn't set a lap time. He has. It's just 7 seconds off. Here's what happens. Degrassi comes through. Bird is getting bulked here. Goes to the inside. That's with Nato, and then he's annoyed.
I think this was the out lap, though. I think that was earlier on what we saw. That wasn't on their hot lap. So, but you're right. But by the letter of the law, you have to do a time, and they have done a time in the first part. So I don't think they'll be in trouble with the stewards. They obviously want to massively improve their lap times, but that they've got time to do it now. So here is Da Costa, fastest man so far in this part of qualifying, and straight into the pit lane, so he will probably change tyres. They're going to have to do a quick turnaround here, less than 5 minutes to go, but it's a Porsche powertrain, 1-2 at the moment.
So, 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Out lap, sorry, a quick prep lap, so 1:23.
Yeah, that's fine for me.
Okay.
That's fine for me.
Yeah, he sounds pretty relaxed with the run plan, isn't he? Engineers advising him on what they're going to do. Here are those tyre changes we were talking about. This is in the Nissan pits, as we can see Sasha Fenestraz, who's been on a good run of qualifying, and it'd be nice for him to try and capitalise on that. He got taken out in a fairly robust move by Nick Cassidy when he was heading for a good finish in Cape Town last time out. So we'll see what he can do here. But Sam Bird on track.
So Bird aborted his lap because Degrassi hit the wall. So Degrassi hit the wall, Bird was following him, and so he then aborted his lap. So now, no issues for Bird. The car is absolutely fine. James Barkley, the team principal, as Bird comes through the chicane. So he doesn't have a full lap under his belt, but I think that might mean that both Brazilians are going to be towards the back of the order. 3.5 minutes to go. Here's Bird's radio.
Do your first push, carry into your second push. If you're going to abort the second push, you've got to not do it too slowly.
That's the message to Bird.
Yeah, he's nearly 2 seconds off on this lap. So it's a bit of an odd one, this, because he's not crawling around as slowly as you've seen other people doing on a build lap, but he's also not setting a fast lap time. So it's a sort of halfway house here. But anyway, he's pushing on. So expect this next lap from Sam Bird to be much more representative of his true pace. But here is the Neo of Dan Ticktum. Now, he's done some spectacular laps, hasn't he? The early part of the season, in Berea in particular. Might be a bit trickier for him here, but we'll see.
Try to gauge your mirrors, but if we can stay ahead, it will help us for our overall plan.
Right, Bird is on a push lap now. Sam Bird pushing in the Jaguar. Dan Ticktum is on a prep lap at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on Bird's running clock down in the bottom right.
Yeah,
here he comes. Now he's a bit out of sync compared to everybody else. He's coming up into the right-hander of turn 7 now. We'll get a middle sector split for him here. 300ths up on Da Costa's time. He might get another push lap after this.
Keep pushing, push lap, keep pushing.
Keep pushing, telling the driver on a push lap.
Yeah.
Feels like some Drive to Survive commentary, that does. Across the line comes Baer, he goes fastest, the 1 minute 12.833, 300ths ahead of DaCosta. Dennis is still in the pits. Has he left the pit lane yet? He's just left the pit lane now, so the Andretti team going out very, very late in the day. Baer really fighting the car down into turn 1, and Dennis is going to be the last driver, one of the last drivers on track. So Baer across the line. Tictum now fastest in sector 1.
Bird's got time to do one cool lap here and go again, so that should be fine. Here's Nato and Fenestras, the 2 Nissan drivers, but they don't build laps. They seem to be weaving around here, just trying to get temperature. So
Tictum's the one.
Yeah, Tictum's the one to watch on this lap, isn't it? We're in a little bit of a holding pattern for everyone else, but they've got to get out of his way. Here is Tictum, and he's got those Nissan cars in front of him as we... Oh, he's gone straight on.
Traffic, Buemi. Got 10 seconds.
Yeah, where am I?
You're P1.
What position?
P1.
That would have been nice to hear. He needed to know what kind of pace he had there, Sam Baer, and now he knows he's P1. So Tictum has thrown this lap away. He can go round and push again. Tyres might not be in the optimum window, but he'll have to go again, Dan Tictum. Currently 8th quickest. Mitch Evans is about to come through the final corner and out across the line. Here is the black and white Jaguar. Bit of traffic ahead, including his teammate Sam Baer. Keeps out of the way nicely. Evans through the final turn. And where does he go on this lap? He goes 3rd fastest, a 10th away from Baer. So that's, Barkley knows that's not quite comfortable. He won't get another lap in, I don't think, Mitch Evans. Dennis starts a lap now. 3 seconds remaining on the clock. And I think everybody has made it across the line. Yes, they have. So, final laps incoming. Degrassi won't be qualifying after hitting the wall. Buemi has done a reasonable first sector. DaCosta's first sector is good. Nato's middle sector is good. There's going to be quick times all over the shop, but really DaCosta is got to be the championship focus. Well, he and Buemi, they are the highest placed drivers. Well, and Dennis actually too. So there's everyone to keep an eye out for, basically. Buemi's a 10th down after the first 2 sectors. This could be a tough one for Buemi. Nato across the line, only 4th quickest. He takes the checkered flag.
DaCosta's on a good lap here, and so is Sam Baer. Both drivers going better. Buemi now up to the final corner. Turn right, pick your moment to get the power down. Miss that outside wall. He is up to P5, but he's not going to be in the duels. So
for the first time this season, Sebastian Buemi won't be in the duels. Here comes DaCosta. What can he do? 2nd. Lost a lot of time in the final sector. He remains in 2nd place. Baer across the line remains quickest. Gunter jumps up into 2nd. That pushes Nato out. Nato is still out qualified. Sasha Fenestras running the 2nd time this season. Dennis 7th. Jake Dennis 7th. The 2 championship leaders will be starting on rows 8 and 7 respectively for the E-Prix later on. Jake Dennis only 7th fastest. Both Jaguars through to the duels for only the 2nd time this season, the 3rd time this season. Baer, Gunter, DaCosta, Evans going through. And that is going to be a fun fight at the front, and Florian Modlinger will be very satisfied with that. This is beautifully poised for the championship fight. Absolutely fantastic. Frustration for Adapt because Freitz was slowest. He was telling me earlier on today, Robin, that it's taking him a bit of time to get back into the swing of things. But Sam Baer, fastest in the groups. And again, that Jaguar's got pace.
The Jaguars are fast. They're fast in qualifying. They're fast in the races. They just need to get to the end with a clean race without either hitting each other or running into trouble. And, they're 6th in the championship as a team at the moment, which is not at all representative of the fact that they've had probably the fastest or 2nd fastest car all season.
And I felt like I took a massive wallop with some concrete, and I don't know whether it got stuck under the car, but it's just, I've just flinged something massive out of the front.
Okay, so we sort of caught some debris kind of by the sounds of it, Bird.
I wonder if that was on the in-lap coming back to the pits, because it obviously didn't slow him down on his time lap. He's done the fastest time, I think, of the weekend so far. Yeah, about a 10th quicker than we saw from Van Dorn in the earlier group, so might have been on the in-lap.
Jake Dennis has been 6th and 7th in his last 3 qualifying sessions in his groups. So it's been a bit of a struggle for Dennis in qualifying recently.
They need to get that sorted. You know, if they want to fight for the championship, I think they got away with it early on while other cars were learning about the Gen 3, but they can't get away with it for too long. Here we go.
So this is Lucas de Grassi up at turn 7.
I touched the wall, I touched the wall.
Now turn 8. Oh, on the inside.
Car damage, boxing.
Yeah, car damage, car damage.
Inside wall at turn 8 for de Grassi, and him going slow is what caught Sam Bird out, and presumably at this next left-hander at turn 10, and Bird then bailed because, well, what was the point? Here it is again. Oh.
Yeah, that's the debris that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And actually, it's concrete pieces, it seems, from the block.
Oh, so that's what Bird then collected just there as he then came through, so that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, he's quickest in qualifying Group B. Bird, Gunter, Da Costa and Evans will be advancing through to the duels. Nato missing out. Buemi, Dennis, Fenestras, Tictum, Freitz and de Grassi, the 11 drivers in the second qualifying group. Through to the duels next. And that is the first time this season that Antonio Felix da Costa has out-qualified Pascal Wehrlein. Fascinating Porsche fight. Let's head down to Nikki.
So we're down outside the Mahindra garage with team principal Fred Bertrand. Just talk us through, we saw a bit of a replay of what happened to Lucas de Grassi, contact there with the front rear. How much damage is done to the car, and have you spoken to him?
Unfortunately, enough damage to stop the session for Lucas. I think it's a pity because he had very good feeling with the car since this morning, improving all the time, and we know that Lucas on one lap like this with all the Brazilian fans behind him was able to do something great, and he started well in the session, good first split, and unfortunately a small touch on the front right, and that damaged the wheel and a little bit the suspension behind, and not possible to continue.
Such a disappointment, but hopefully the fans will get behind him during the course of the race. And Oliver Rowland, again, not quite the performance enough to get through to the duels.
Yeah, I think Oli struggles to find the right confidence into the car, and on such a track with such small gap between the performances of the drivers, it's too much. But hopefully, I think we have 2 big fighters, so we hope we'll be good during the race and able to come from the back to the top.
And the car is better because obviously there were issues with the suspension, which allowed you, well, you couldn't race when we were in Cape Town. Is that all sorted now?
Yeah, that's behind us, hopefully. That was already a very difficult weekend for us in Cape Town. So that's why here we really want to do well, and having those small mistakes doesn't help, but I think it creates additional pressure. Maybe I'll explain a bit of the small mistakes we have here, but that's part of the game. We have to be stronger and be better for the future.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you very much, and good luck for the race weekend. Cheers.
Well, I'm stood outside the Porsche garage with team principal Florian Modlinger. Florian, mixed fortunes today. Pascal Wehrlein, unfortunately not through, but Felix da Costa through. So how did you evaluate this one?
Yeah, Pascal did not make it through. His first run was great, P3, but in the second run he reported more oversteer than normal. We have to check. He had a wall contact and did not make it. And on the other side, Antonio performed similar to free practice, made it through the duels, and now we try to progress further.
And how much does it matter in terms of the opportunities for overtake when it comes to racing? I think there are 4 big opportunities. Are you still massively confident for Pascal to really encroach on the field?
Yeah, from the start position, we have to do our best. The track allows overtaking, good overtaking opportunities, and we need to maximize the result on his side.
Thanks for your time, Florian.
Thank you.
So Florian Modlinger, their team principal at the Tag Heuer Porsche team. Brazilian fans flooding the grandstands, getting ready to go. The qualifying duels about to get underway in Sao Paulo, the 6th round of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. The Senna caps are out in force, aren't they? Which is just wonderful to see. And it was born in this area of Sao Paulo was Senna. Anyway, first quarter-final will be Eduardo Mortara versus Nick Cassidy. They've faced each other once before. Mortara winning that time around. And as I say, Edo through to the duels. James Rossiter will be pleased with that one. Sylvain Filippi, the team principal at Envision, just cracking open a what? It's 20 past 10 in the morning, Sylvain, and he's going for a full-fat cola. Strong. So that's a strong strategy. That's an early caffeine strategy for Sylvain Filippi. Out onto the circuit goes Mortara. He will be first on track in quarterfinal 1. A reminder, they go head-to-head over 1 lap, split by about sort of 10 seconds or so, and the quickest driver advances through to the next group, to the next duel.
It is absolutely baking outside his commentary box, isn't it? It is, you can just see all the way down straight the heat haze coming through, and the spectators, they'll be cooking in those grandstands. But the key of all of that, though, what I was in a long-winded way coming to say, is the drivers have got to make sure they get the tyres in absolutely the right temperature, because, as you said, Jack, they get 1 lap here. We've seen throughout qualifying in the group stages, all of the drivers used a build lap. They all pretty much needed a lap to get the front tyres in. They're not going to have that luxury here, so you see Mortara winding on the steering lock, a bit of tyre squeal almost there, just trying to put a bit of energy and heat into those front tyres.
And what I find so interesting now is they get to turn it up to full power, the car, 350 kilowatts. So on this run down towards turn 1, this is it. This is your big lap, and you have to brake a little bit earlier, which is so opposite to what every racing driver has done their whole life.
And it is so, that's one of the big challenges of Formula E, is just, you know, when you've got these different power modes, just trying to work out exactly where to brake. And you kind of always lean towards giving away a couple of meters, because it's worse to overshoot, especially in the first braking zone.
Right, Mortara through the first corner. Nick Cassidy now coming down towards turn 1. Mortara's coming up to the chicane at 4, 5 and 6. Mortara's best qualifying performance so far this season is 7th on the grid. He's made it through to the quarterfinals twice, but never advanced through to the semis. The last time these two met was Berlin last year, when Mortara beat Cassidy in the quarterfinal.
There was only 0.004 of a second between them in the group stages, so far only 400ths. It is incredibly close. Mortara coming through 7 and 8, and he is now ahead. So as the lap develops here, Mortara's getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, very quick through 4, 5 and 6, Eduardo Mortara. Cassidy in the bottom right. Mortara about to come out and across the line to set the benchmark time, and Cassidy's closed the gap a little, just 600ths between them. This is going to be a close one. Mortara does a 1 minute 12.132. Cassidy now, 2 more corners to come. He's 300ths back. Can he get it at the final corner? It's 500ths now between them. It's all or nothing here for Cassidy. Bit of a slide as he gets on the power, and he doesn't do it. By 200ths of a second, Eduardo Mortara is through to the semi-finals for the first time this season. Really, really close duel between the two of them. Cassidy doing a 12.150, but it is Edo Mortara who goes through to the semi-finals. Front 2 rows of the grid for Mortara for the first time this season.
That was a really strong lap. If you think about the fact they've been in the pits and they had to go back out, they've had a lot of time to think about it, and it's quite easy to sort of overthink it as well. You know, they have that whole second group phase to think about their 350 laps. But they've also, I guess, had time to look at a bit more data. So here we go, Hughes versus Van Dorn. What do we think, Jack? This is an interesting one, isn't it?
It certainly is. Van Dorn's only his second appearance in the duels this season, and in Diriyah, his last appearance, he was slowest of the losing quarter-finalists. So it's going to be a big one here for Van Dorn to try and get his season back onto some sort of track. But Hughes has been a qualifying master this year.
He has. Van Dorn was quicker in the group stages, though, by a 10th and a half. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really tight. I think, again, this one, if they get the laps spot on. So, Van Dorn across the line.
And we're going split screen here, so we've lined them up as best as we can. Van Dorn is a 10th or so ahead after the first couple of corners.
But he hit the inside curb a bit more aggressively than he would have liked, I think, at turn 2, and that put him offline. So, I'll be interested to see when we get the next sector time. Yeah, look, he has dropped to 10. That compromises line for turn 3. Hughes now comes out of 6, had a good run through there. Watch Van Dorn, much tidier on the curves through 4, 5 and 6.
Hughes coming up to turn 7. There's 300ths between them. Hughes has overdone it. I thought he was going in the wall, but I think he's thrown the lap away, Jake Hughes. He's won every quarter-final he's been in so far this season, but wait for the tower on the left-hand side to take a huge leap in Stoffel van Dorn's advantage. There it is, 0.6 of a second now. Hughes through the final 2 corners. Van Dorn now into turn 9, then 10 and 11.
And the team should be telling Stoffel that, you know, Hughes made an error, just do a safe lap, because that will be enough to get through. And it looks pretty neat and tidy for him at the end there. Yes, so very comfortable. So it wasn't as close as we thought, but it would have been if Hughes hadn't gone deep there at turn 7.
It was really close until it wasn't.
Yeah.
But Jay Penske in the garage at DS Penske, satisfied with Stoffel van Dorn advancing through to the semi-finals. So Mortara will face Van Dorn, which will be a very nice fight between those 2 drivers. This is Van Dorn's best qualifying performance of the season so far then. Oliver Turvey there to the left-hand side as we get ready for duel number 3. Antonio Felix da Costa versus Max Günther. Now, Günther was 2nd on the grid last time out in Cape Town. Da Costa has not made it through to the duels so far this season. His best qualifying performance, 9th on the grid. He won his last 5 quarter-final appearances, Antonio Felix da Costa.
Well, he won the last race as well, so he's carrying a lot of confidence coming into this weekend, and Porsche have done quite a bit of work we hear to improve their qualifying performances, and the proof will be in the lap time here. So da Costa goes first, Günther in the Maserati following on, so we'll get a look as they get down towards turn 1. Günther drifting a little bit in the middle of the road here, inside the braking point as we see da Costa. He's done a pretty good sector 1. Let's see if he can get the nose in. A little bit of movement, and goes a little bit deep actually. Deeper than most people through that first part of the chicane at turn 4, and that would have tightened the line for 5.
He's got a good advantage here though, hasn't he? Almost 0.2 of a second. Günther is just arriving at 4, 5 and 6. Gets on the power out of 6 now, and he closes the gap a little bit, less than 1/10 of a second between them.
Yeah, a bit of a snap there for da Costa as he tried to put the power down at 7. He did overshoot as we saw Hughes do, but still not as tidy a run as he would have liked. Last couple of corners now, and he is getting a very clean run through here. But let's see, Günther's middle sector is faster. It's all going to come down to these last couple of corners.
The gap goes up to just over 1/10 of a second. Here comes Günther, needs a big final 2 turns if he's going to close in. Bit understeery there for Günther. He's still closing the gap a tiny bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough across the line. It's not. Da Costa is through into the semi-finals. Da Costa has found his qualifying form, and he will be starting on the front 2 rows of the grid. Max Günther doing a 1 minute 12.189.
That's us through. That's us through. Good job.
And that was Marius Meyer Dietrich on the radio to Da Costa, saying, we are through. And he is. So, Da Costa versus Günther. One of them, well, Da Costa will face one of the Jaguars, because the final qualifying duel is Mitch Evans versus Sam Bird. The Kiwi versus the Brit. They've faced off once before. Evans won that one. This is going to be an interesting fight, especially after last year where Bird struggled a little bit. Evans kind of brought his dominance, you know, or had a really strong season and kind of became the team leader, as it were. Bird is trying to fight that back. He's currently 8th in the championship, Bird, with Evans down in 12th. So there's a lot going on in this intra-team rivalry at Jaguar TCS Racing. And this duel is going to be fascinating. Now remember, Sam Bird does have a 5-place grid drop for hitting Evans in Hyderabad, but that won't be applied until the end of the session.
Yeah, so he wants to get as high up the order as he can, and then take the +5 there. So very strong first sector for Mitch Evans, 22.6. That's a good start to his lap. We'll see as Bird comes out of turn 3 now and heads towards this 4-5 chicane. Evans is going through the bottom of our screen, and Bird is down by 0.07 of a second in that early part of the lap. Watch the box to the bottom right, and he gets a A good run, but didn't quite get the curb as well as he would have liked, I think. For the left-hand part of chicane, Evans 27.8 middle sector, that's also strong. So he's really throwing down the gauntlet here for his teammate.
The gap goes up to almost 0.2 of a second. We'll get another look after this right-hander that Bird's coming through now at turn 7. The gap grows again, 0.2 of a second in Evans' advantage at the moment. Through the final corner comes Mitch Evans. It's neat and tidy. Bird's closing the gap though. Evans does an 11.8. That's a rapid lap time from Mitch Evans. Bird now towards the final corner. The 90-degree right-hander on the power across the line. Evans is through. It's Mitch Evans that progresses, but Bird is the fastest loser in the quarterfinals, so that means that he will qualify 5th, which will put him 10th on the grid.
That was a seriously impressive lap there from Mitch Evans.
Yeah.
I know they're the 4th group, but there's a degree of track evolution there. But his time was 0.3 faster than what we've seen from, you know, the first group of Mortara Cassidy, for example, or from Da Costa, just over 0.2. So, yeah, that's a strong performance from the Kiwi. And, you know, he's already had a pole this year, hasn't he? Started in pole position in Hyderabad and, as you said, got taken out by his teammate on that occasion. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that semi-final. I think it's going to be good.
So 5th on the grid will be Nick Cassidy. 6th on the grid will be Max Gunter. 7th on the grid will be Jake Hughes. Those are the first 3 grid positions that we know. And 10th on the grid will be Sam Bird. So that's the way it will line up further back. Semi-final wise then, Eduardo Mortara versus Stoffel Van Dorn. And then it will be Antonio Felix da Costa versus Mitch Evans in the battle for the front row and the chance to get through to the final and take the 3 points that'll be on offer for the Julius Baer pole position. So just a few minutes time and then that first semi-final will be getting underway. There's a look at the Ponte de Casa Verde bridge. And the circuit here, getting ready for the semis in about just under 3 minutes time, actually. Before then, let's go to Nikki.
Well, Jake Hughes into the duels again, but it didn't quite go to plan this time, pushing really hard. What happened just out of turn 7?
Yeah, it was braking for turn 7. Unfortunately, just locked the front, and it stayed locked all the way to nearly the wall, so that was unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I was happy to get into the duels. I was not feeling as confident as I like to be in the car, especially on braking. I think everyone's struggling with that. But yeah, it proved to be the case in the end in turn 7. But I think we're still in a good position to score some good points.
Absolutely, because everyone seems to be talking about the fact that actually there's going to be so much overtaking and position changing at the course of this track. What do you think your realistic expectations are?
Oh, it's going to be a typical Formula E race, I think. Probably even more crazy than we've seen so far this year. Energy will be crucial. I think the most crucial we've seen so far. And yeah, it'll be a lot about following in the tow and trying to save energy when you can and spending it at the right moments, because we won't have many matchsticks to burn during the race.
Yeah. And how, looking at the others in terms of their efficiency, how do you think McLaren can compete?
Yeah, I think we're not too far away. I mean, I wouldn't stand here and say that we're the strongest, let's say, but I think we're improving every single race. I think obviously René's been able to be on the podium and I've been in the top 5 a few times, so we're not a million miles away. But I think we have some things that we're continuously improving on, and hopefully, you know, we've had a month off since Cape Town and we've tried to implement those lessons. So hopefully that pays dividend today.
Was it nice to have a bit of a break? Did you get a break?
It was actually. Normally I just love to be in the car, but those first 2 months were intense. So a week off and then straight on the bike training.
Yeah, it really was an intense start to the season. You've had a great rookie year so far. Thanks very much, Jake Hughes.
One of the Jakes. We've got too many Jakes, haven't we, Nikki? Here we go then. Semi-finals about to get underway. Not many matchsticks to burn in the race, says Jake Hughes. No idea what that means, never heard it in my life. But you learn a new phrase every day.
Well, presumably it means he doesn't have too many tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, but I've heard that as a phrase.
Too many aces in your pack.
Yeah, exactly. Too many, not enough matchsticks.
Send us a tweet if there are any more that you think are related to matchsticks in a race.
Hashtag Sao Paulo E-Prix. So, semi-final number 1 coming up. Mortara versus Van Dorn. They've faced each other once before, and Mortara won that one.
We go to the same hairdresser when you look at that picture, say
Maybe, maybe. Light about to go green at the end of the pit lane. The first semi-final getting underway as Eduardo Mortara leaves the pit lane. The light will go back to red, and then Stoffel van Dorn will leave the pit lane. Penske were on the front row in Hyderabad, and they've not had multiple front row starts in one season since season 2, when they were the Dragon team back then.
Yeah, I almost think, you know, you got to think of them as they're a whole new team.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, Maserati as well. I know there's a lot of carryover from previous, but I think the way that the Penske team has come together, it's a completely new team. It's an amalgamation of 2 previous teams. So it's yeah. I know you like your stats and history, but it's a bit different, I think.
Well, do you like this one? Mortara has only lost 1 semi-final in his last 7 semi-finals. He's
Wow,
only
that's
lost
good.
once in his last 7.
That is good.
That was to Da Costa in Jakarta last year.
And
Good driving from Mortara, or a good stat?
No, good, both.
Okay, great.
Well
thank
done.
you.
Well done. You've redeemed yourself. But I think the battle here is going to be fascinating, because in the previous round there were near hundreds between these 2 drivers, and actually they kind of share the powertrain, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's similar cars, similar drivers who were championship drivers last year. They were very evenly matched last year in the title fight and in qualifying. So this should be good.
A spot on the front row up for grabs. Eduardo Mortara into turn 1. Now Van Dorn across the line and down towards the first couple of corners. And we're going for the split screen here. We've delayed Mortara's video and synced it up as best we can with Van Dorn's as they come into turns 1 and 2.
So close to the wall, and the inside wall there for Mortara maybe wins that first chicane, but nothing between them. 10,000ths of a second. We head down towards turn 4. Avoid the bumps, guys, on the right-hand side. Mortara playing a little bit closer with danger there. Nigel Beresford with, you know, he can't handle the tension, can he, on the right-hand side, the senior technical man in the Penske pits.
Down towards turn 7 and 8. 400ths between them. We'll get another look at the timings after this 90-degree right-hander of turn 7 at the end of the long back straight. Has Van Dorn still got the advantage? Yes, and it's grown to a couple of tenths of a second. Little grimace for James Rossiter on the left-hand side. Grows a little more. Nigel Beresford and Jay Penske watching on the right-hand side. Out across the line. And it is Van Dorn who's through. Stoffel Van Dorn will be on the front row of the grid for the first time this season. The reigning champion is back at the front.
This is good news for him, isn't it? You know, he's really been put in the shadow here so far this season by his teammate Jean-Eric Verne, who they both started off badly, but then Jeff seemed to recover so far. But Van Dorn, great job.
Well done, mate. In mud. Only 1 left.
Only 1 left is the message. Now it's semi-final 2. Antonio Felix da Costa versus Mitch Evans. Former rival, well, they've been rivals in Formula E, they've been rivals in GP3 back in the day. And now they're going head-to-head on circuit for a place on the front row of the grid. Evans has had that pole position earlier this season. In fact, he's been in the duels for the last 4 races. He's been in the semi-finals the last 3 races. This is now his 4th in a row. Across the line comes Da Costa, who hasn't been in the duels yet this season. His best qualifying performance is 9th, but it looks as though he's a bit more hooked up. Topped free practice 2 earlier on this morning.
Evans has got to be the favourite, though, based on what we've seen so far in qualifying. He's done the fastest lap of anybody so far this weekend, and yeah, he's just got to try and replicate that performance. 1,000 down, almost 700 down. So, as I just said, Evans is favourite. He's started slightly on the back foot here, but there's a long way to go on this lap.
Costa exiting the chicane, and Evans finds a huge chunk through turns 1, 2, and 3.
I think the the traction capability of the Jaguar is really coming to its own here. They've got a very sophisticated software system which allows the drivers to get the power down out of the chicane. So Da Costa may be better going in and in the middle of the corner, but Evans gets out quicker. So, yeah, nip and tuck.
Let's see what we've got at turn 7. Through the right-hander comes Evans, wrestling with the car. The gap remains at about a 10th.5. Through the final corner comes Antonio Felix da Costa, sets the benchmark time, and Evans has lost a lot of time. There's 9 thousandths between them. The front row of the grid is up for grabs. There's 5 thousandths between them. It's all about the final corner. Evans drives to the line and doesn't make it. Da Costa's through by 0.04 of a second. Antonio Felix da Costa, the winner of the last race, is on the front row of the grid for this one.
Evans will be disappointed with that. He's gone 0.2 slower in the semi-final than he did in the quarters, and everyone else has actually improved. So,
and all in the final sector as well.
Yeah, he's made some sort of an error, hasn't he, in the final part of the lap.
So, Florian Modlinger's man, Antonio Felix da Costa, who complained about the braking at turn 1, was struggling on the brakes at turn 1. We saw him lose a big chunk of time in that first sequence of corners, but he is through to the final to face Stoffel Vandoorne. So da Costa, quickest, 0.04 ahead of Mitch Evans, who did a 12.02. I didn't actually manage to write down Mortara's lap time, so I'm not sure who's going to be third on the grid, to be perfectly honest with you, but the battle for pole position. Oh, did you write it down? What did he do? A 12.109. Okay, so Evans will be third on the grid. Mortara will be 4th on the grid. This is where we're at then. The final will be Antonio Felix da Costa versus Stoffel Vandoorne. The Tag Heuer Porsche versus the DS Penske. Two drivers who are trying to mount a bit of a comeback on their championship challenge. Da Costa on the podium the last 2 races. He's got up to 4th in the standings. Vandoorne down in 13th in the championship, but this will help him an awful lot, especially if he wins the final in a moment. So, the final will be getting underway in a little under 7 minutes' time, but we can now go down to hear from Nicky, who spoke to that man Sam Bird a couple of moments ago.
Well, Sam Bird, it's time for a bit of luck on your side, I think, for this weekend. Talk us through that quali lap. Obviously, it's never ideal going up against your teammate, Mitch Evans.
No, it's not, and he's top quality. I didn't do a good enough lap, to be honest. Bit scrappy in the middle sector, ran wide at turn 5, and I think sector 1 and sector 3 were quicker, and I just lost in one place, and that place is onto a really long straight, and yeah, my bad. But the Jaguar have given me a really quick car. We topped normal qualifying. So that was great, and we've done some great energy-saving laps, so I'm feeling competitive.
Now, annoyingly, you've obviously got the 5-place grid penalty for the incident, the crash with Mitch Evans from 2 races ago. So you'll be starting from P10. How much of a challenge is that going to be?
It's actually not the worst thing here. I think the energy consumption will be interesting, to say the least, and I think that the tow effect will mean that P10 is not the worst place to start. I can definitely go forwards.
Who's your biggest competitor?
Well, so far this season it's been myself, but in terms of getting it right, not in terms, I'm not being big-headed, I'm just saying, like, but I'd say there's so many. I'd say the Stellantis cars look strong, Porsche very quick, and Mitch and the Envision guys as well.
Well, good luck for a nice, clean race today. Thank you very much, Sam Bird.
Yeah, unlucky there, Sam Bird. Let's talk about that duel between Edo Mortara and Stoffel Vandoorne. Stoffel, obviously, our reigning champion. Edo did exceptionally well last season in the Venturi team, but had a really difficult start, the Maserati team so far.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the DS Penske, they have it a bit more together. 2 very experienced drivers, probably helping a lot the team to develop the new Gen 3 car. So, I mean, 2 very good drivers together, it just brings the team up, you know. And Stoffel seems to have the hand of the track over here, is doing very well. Like we said back in our little box over there, I think that it's Stoffel's weekend. I mean, we have a lot of strong drivers up there up front, but Stoffel seems to be in very good form.
Yeah, you did say that in the comms booth. We were just sat chilling out, maxing, relaxing, and you said it's got to be Stoffel's weekend this weekend. What makes you say that? What do you think you've seen?
Well, he's had a tough beginning of the season. So yeah. I think, you know, all of these drivers, they have a reset button. where you know, they have to restart. It's a new track for everybody, so it's a good chance for him to have a fresh restart over here. I do think he's very good, obviously. So he's out of DS Penske. He's the one up there, so I think he's going to have a good shot of winning the race.
The DS car in general seems to have a really slow start to this season. You know, historically it has a slow start to the season, but we'll see how that develops. All right, thank you very much, Nelson. Let's go back to comms, shall we?
Thank you, Vern. Traffic aplenty in Sao Paulo. We were asked yesterday, how far is this track from Interlagos, the Autodromo Carlos Pache? The answer is about 40 kilometers, about an hour and a half. Nelson reckoned at 3 a.m. it's about 40 minutes. Any other time of day, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. Final getting underway in 3.5 minutes time.
So when he was coming back to bed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is the all the other races Nelson's been at with this season with us. He's been jet lagged because he's flown from Brazil to Cape Town and to Hyderabad. Now he's in his hometown. He's doing all right. Chirping. Let's go down here. Some more from Nicky.
So Eder Mortara, congratulations, starting from the second row of the grid here in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, thanks. It's been it's been a pretty intense session for us with quite a few mistakes, and after some difficult like free practice, we didn't know if we could make it to the duels, but we did, and very happy to be starting from the first rows.
Got a couple of quick drivers ahead of you, Antonio Felix Costa, Stoffel Van Dorn. How is the race going to play out?
Yeah, so I think that it's going to be a pretty difficult race with very hot temperatures, long straights, so a lot of slipstreaming, and we are going to have to do an intelligent race, and hopefully, you know, starting from the front, it's going to be easier.
Is this the race you can bring home some good, solid points for the team?
We need to.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Eder Mortara.
Yeah, only 3 points this season for Eduardo Mortara. Now, so far this season, we've had, or not even this season, going back to last season as well, as we look at the track temperature up at 50 degrees, air temperature at 30. 8 poles.
I'm glad you turned the aircon on in this commentary box.
Yeah, exactly. Got to be done. Were you with us in Cape Town?
No.
No, Cape Town, the aircon in the commentary box went went nuts and just started blowing hot air in at one point halfway through, which was fairly unpleasant. And while we were out as well, we came back, opened the commentary box room. It's just been pumped full of 30-degree air for the last hour. It was fairly unpleasant. Anyway, Stoffel Van Dorn, if he takes pole position, it'll be 9 pole sitters in 9 races, which will tie the Formula E record. If Da Costa takes pole position, the record will be over because he took pole at the end of last season. So if we get Van Dorn on pole, it's 9 pole sitters from 9 races. And the last 8 races, the pole sitter hasn't won.
So who's your money on?
I'm going Van Dorn. I'm on Team Piquet Jr. very specifically here with, yeah, I think it's Van Dorn's weekend. Well, it's Van Dorn's morning, at least. Who knows what will happen in the race?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I have to go to Costa and keep it interesting, don't I? No point both of us back in the same car. But I would have said Van Dorn, but you know, we'll go to Costa.
Right. So the final is about to get underway. The car's pulling towards the end of the pit lane. Antonio Felix da Costa versus Stoffel Van Dorn for the Julius Baer pole position. Whoa! The predictor vote is tight as well, isn't it? They just think da Costa. I say they, you guys just think da Costa. But 51-49. It's a tight one. And we are in for a very, very tight run here. With da Costa lining up at the end of the pit lane. He'll be first across the line. As he leaves the pit lane now. Then Van Dorn will wait here for 5 seconds. And then the light will go green. And then he will be released onto the circuit as well in the black and gold DS Penske. Florian Modlinger. 3 points for da Costa would take him up to 49 points, just 1 point behind Jean-Eric Verne. Still be 31 points off his teammate Pascal Wehrlein, but remember, Pascal Wehrlein is going to be starting down on the 8th row of the grid. Kat has just been very rude on social media on hashtag Sao Paulo E-Prix. Commentary box full of hot air is surely Jack's natural habitat. Very rude, Kat. Very rude indeed. Here,
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, exactly. You're the provider of most of it. Here comes Da Costa then down the back straight. Again, these guys do now have 2 full power laps under their belt, so they've got a bit more knowledge of the circuit and the conditions.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, there's lots of factors to consider. The tyres obviously have done a bit more mileage by this stage of qualifying, and you know, everything will feel slightly different. But the most important thing, as you rightly say, is they've done a bit more practice. But here we go, Da Costa's chance to get his first front row start of the season. Well, pole position of the season, sorry.
Struggled with braking into turn 1 last time. That was his complaint on the radio. Now here comes Stoffel Vandoorne through the final corner and out across the line and down towards turn 1. So the gap between them, nothing at the line, as you would expect. Into the first chicane at turns 1 and 2. Oh, was that a lockup maybe from Vandoorne? Looked like a little puff of white smoke potentially from the front right. Da Costa carrying so much speed through turn 4. And there's barely anything between them, 0.02 of a second. So it didn't cost Vandoorne time. He's arriving at turns 4, 5 and 6 now.
It's only 69 thousandths as Vandoorne heads towards turn 7. It is so important to sight the braking point here. It is a little bit bumpy, as we saw Jake Hughes get caught out earlier on, but he does get the nose in nicely. Da Costa now up to the penultimate corner, into the last one. Super close to the wall. That's a clean run out.
Vandoorne's got the advantage at the moment. Da Costa does an 11.9, but there's less than a tenth between them. Can Vandoorne hold on to this? Coming into the final corner, it's almost a tenth of a second. It's going to be 9 pole sitters in 9 races, is it here? The reigning champion takes pole position. Stoffel Vandoorne is back for DS Penske and will start at the front for the Julius Baer Sao Paulo E-Prix. That's what it means to Nigel Beresford and the rest of the team. It's pole for Vandoorne. It's 3 points for Vandoorne. And he will be at the front of the grid.
Yeah! You're on pole, mate.
That's a big result for him. You know, there's still time for him to drag himself into this championship fight, the reigning champion, of course, but that's a good way to get the campaign truly up and running. I mean, so far, where's he, Jack? 13th in the points, only 11 on the board. Yeah, but it's good weekend so far.
I think we should do a bit more simulator even. Imagine.
What does that mean from Stoffel Vandoorne? I think we should do even more simulator work. Have they done more for this race than others? Or
was he being sarcastic and
yeah,
saying he's done
a mysterious little message from Stoffel Vandoorne? Love it.
I'm sure Nicky and Razzie will be all over that to ask the tough questions.
So time for a bit of lunch for the loads of great food around this circuit. And loads of great food around Sao Paulo, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm going to stop talking about it now because I'm already getting hungry. But it's actually only coming up to 11 o'clock, so an early lunch, a brunch, a nice Saturday brunch. Maybe a couple of caipirinhas. For them, not for me, obviously, but Stoffel Vandoorne is the one who will be starting on pole position. None of the 8 previous pole sitters have gone on to win the race. Vandoorne will be hoping to change that this time around. Penske's last pole was 90 races ago at Mexico City back in 2016. That was Jerome D'Ambrosio driving then. But 9 pole sitters in 9 races. Da Costa missing out, but second on the grid. Is Da Costa kind of the favourite for the race still? Because the efficiency of the Porsche powertrain this season has been remarkable.
Yeah, I would say so. I think looking down the grid, I'd say actually Da Costa and Evans are the two that I would say are the favourites going into the race.
Evans third on the grid, and yeah, just that much is what Da Costa missed out on. But both of these drivers, it's great. The problem with, well, no, the great thing about Formula E is that all of these drivers should be at the front, and that's what's always quite difficult because I'm like, oh, finally we have De Coster and Van Dorn back at the front. To me, they're two of the big hitters in Formula E. But then you've got Pascal Wehrlein on the 8th row of the grid. Well, he should be at the front, you know, and Dennis should be at the front, and he's on the 7th row of the grid, and Buemi should be at the front, and he's on the 6th row of the grid. De Grassi should be at the front, he's at the back. The strength and depth of the drivers is just remarkable. But I do think Van Dorn and De Coster are two very, very strong drivers, and are probably in my, well, I don't know, I'm committed to this now. They're near my, or they're in and amongst my top 5 drivers on the grid.
Go on, name the other 3.
No, because that's unfair. That's unfair. I shouldn't have got bogged down in this. Really going to bail out of this one. So we'll hear from Stoffel Van Dorn in a few moments' time. And I'm sure he will be very satisfied. But he knows that the race is yet to come. He's made progress through the field this year, has Van Dorn, but not sort of outrageous progress, not sort of Porsche progress. As he hands his helmet to Kelly. Yeah, finally, he says. And you can see Nicky lurking at the back there, ready to pounce. And he's a qualifying master, is Stoffel Van Dorn. That is his 8th pole position of his Formula E career. It took a lot over the last few seasons. And that's been why it's been such a surprise seeing him struggle in qualifying so far this year, because last season he was phenomenal, and that doesn't even count the pole positions that he took and then had penalties. For example, in Valencia in season 7, I think it was, he ended up with a penalty for a sort of tyre infringement or something that wasn't his fault.
Stoffel Van Dorn, first pole position for DS Penske. Huge congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Feels extremely good, especially after a few difficult first races where qualifying didn't really go my way, and yeah, just couldn't put the things together. But today was really an awesome job. I think we managed to improve you know, everything quite a bit since the start of the year, and yeah, just very happy now to be on pole here.
The last pole position for Jay Penske was 90 races ago.
Well, I hope the next one is not 90 races away. So we'll, you know, we'll see. We're starting in a good position. Focus on the race now, and then, yeah, then we see how it goes.
You mentioned on the team radio we should do some more work on the simulator. What do you mean by that?
No, I was taking the piss, to be honest, because we do so much preparation before we come to these events, and I was actually complaining that we're doing too much. So I was just, yeah, kind of taking it as a joke.
It's good. Well, all the hard work paid off. Apologies for that language. But we will now introduce the CEO of Julius Baer Family Office, Fernando Velarde, to present you with your pole position trophy. Huge congratulations to Stoffel Van Dorn on his 8th career pole position, but his first and a very important one for DS Penske.
Okay, so Stoffel Van Dorn then on pole position, 3 points for him. That's what. Love it. Nigel Beresford loving life.
It's amazing how he manages to look so cool.
Yeah.
Even in the heat, isn't he? But Nigel Beresford there on the right-hand side, he's seen and done it all before at Formula One, in IndyCar, and of course in Formula E guiding championship victories for Jean-Eric Vergne.
And Antonio Felix da Costa.
And yes, he was there as well, sorry.
Pole position then for Van Dorn. So that's funny. So obviously he's been complaining guys are doing too much simulator work, sticks it on pole, and he's a bit like, oh, okay, maybe it was a good idea then. So Van Dorn will start at the front of the grid for the race, which gets underway in 3 hours' time. And there goes the cues for the Caipirinhas. So pole position for Stoffel Van Dorn. The race gets underway in 3 hours' time. Looking forward to the Julius Baer E-Prix. The Julius Baer Sao Paulo E-Prix, rather, I should say. But got the sponsor in, so I'll be popular with them. Let's head back down then to the pit lane to get some reaction with Vergne.
Jay Penske, your name is on the board. The man who is in charge of the team. Congratulations, you've put your car, Stoffel Van Dorn, on pole position. It must feel good, Jay.
There's a lot of other people that made this happen besides me, but to the entire Stellantis team that had been working so hard in the few weeks we had off, to see all of their cars running up front is just great. But Stoffel, he needed this one. He'd been all season long been trying to find and put it all together, and finally today he put it all together and had a fantastic quality effort.
Relatively slow start to the season, but you've got two extremely competitive drivers who we know historically can do the job for you. Just talk us about that whole process, that building process of getting that momentum into top gear and finally getting the results that you want. I mean, it's only qualifying, I say that, but, you know.
That's fair. Listen, I think when you start a season where you have two new drivers, a new partner with the OEM, with Stellantis and DS, I think all of that together makes it difficult to start a season on the best foot. That said, I think we're seeing the kind of progress that we hope for with clearly Jeb's win and then the second place last. So hopefully we can repeat today with something on the podium.
How is it working with two drivers, both champions, both very good, very competitive? I mean,
you've got your hands full.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, I think the positives have been that during the early development of the car, having two drivers with such incredible feedback who are so thoughtful in the development of this Generation 3 has been a big advantage to the team. And I think they're working well together, they're communicating well, and I think hopefully we're hitting our stride at the right point of the season.
Jay, it sounded extremely rude of me to say it's only qualifying, and I know how important qualifying is. And
3 points, 3 points. We'll take those 3 points.
Exactly. But let's talk about this race. Let's talk about this track. Everyone's been talking about the braking zones. Everyone has been talking about trying to regen as much energy as possible because it is a quick track.
Yeah, listen, I think this is going to be a race where the efficiency is going to play a huge part. Porsche, as we've seen, is so incredibly strong. Him starting second behind us, maybe we'll let Antonio go by us for a bit so we can regen a bit more behind him. But no, we'll see. This is going to be a great race today. I think the fans are going to have a lot to cheer about.
All right, Jay, it's great to see you smiling, my friend.
Thanks, you guys, so much. Thanks again.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, buddy. Give your mic to Mike. They got an extremely happy chap there in Jay Penske. Nelson.
Definitely. I mean, Stoffel, like I said, he needed a good result this weekend, and he's delivered. He's on pole. He's going to be in front of the race. He's there. He's out of trouble. He's there in the beginning. So the most difficult part, I think, he's done, which is starting up front. Now is just maintaining the cool during the race, being smart, using the attack mode the right time, and just keeping the car safe and trying to win the race. For sure, he's going to be in the podium.
Yeah, all right, Nelson. So there you go. Stoffel van Dorn, our reigning champion, is on pole position. Fantastic qualifying performance. Antonio just behind him. What will happen in the race, we'll find out later.
Well, this is how the grid will line up then for round 6 of the season. Lucas de Grassi and Andre Lotterer will be at the back of the grid. The two oldest drivers bringing up the rear. Not making a comment on that, just the fact. Robin Bright's 20th on the grid for Abt Cupra as he gets back into the Formula E swing of things. Oliver Rowland not particularly quick in the Mahindra. Pascal Wehrlein 18th on the grid with a penalty as well means it's going to be a very, very tough afternoon for Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche. 17th for Dan Ticktum. 16th will be Sergio Sede Camara at his home race. Sasha Fenestraz will be 15th for the Nissan team after a disappointing qualifying. He was on pole last time. Jake Dennis, second place man in the championship. He's possibly going to get some points, but he's a fair way adrift of the front runners. Nico Muller, 13th for Abt Cupra, their best qualifying performance of the season. Sebastian Buemi, 12th on the grid for Envision. Rene Rast just missing out on the top 10 for Neon McLaren as he lines up in 11th spot. Into the top 10, Sam Bird with a 5-place grid drop, so he is in 10th place. Max Günther is 9th on the grid. He's got a penalty as well for the Maserati MSG team. 8th on the grid will be Norman Nato for Nissan, out-qualifying Sasha Fenestraz's teammate for only the second time this season. Jean-Eric Verne will fancy of chances of some strong points from 7th on the grid. He's been in the podium for the last 2 races, fighting for the lead. Jake Hughes lines up 6th for Neon McLaren. Nick Cassidy has also been on the podium in the last 2 races. He'll be 5th for the Envision Racing team. And then onto the front 2 rows, Eduardo Mortara for Maserati MSG and Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing. Yet to finish on the podium so far this season, Mitch Evans, despite leading 2 races. Antonio Felix da Costa won the last race. He is 2nd on the grid. And on pole position will be Stoffel van Dorn, 9th different pole sitter in the last 9 Formula E races. Let's head down and find out about Andretti's goings-on. Radzi.
Well, I'm stood outside the Avalanche Andretti garage with team principal Roger Griffiths. Roger, unfortunate way qualification went, especially for Jake Dennis. What's kind of going through your head right now?
I mean, obviously, it is disappointing not to get through to the duels. I mean, you know that once you're into the duels, you're starting no worse than 8th. I don't think we got the best out of the tyre, to be honest. We'd shown pace during the practice sessions and, being as high as second fastest overall at 300 kilowatts, but we just weren't able to execute it today. And, it's a little frustrating. And we know we can race well, and we've demonstrated that many times. And, certainly there's an expectation for Jake to be able to get into the points from starting 11th or 12th on the grid. I'm not sure exactly where we are, but we'd like to have been a bit further up, particularly as our friends across the way with Porsche are able to get, Antonio all the way into the final. So, we've got to look at, what they're doing. Is there something we can learn from it? But we'll have a good race, I hope. But disappointed.
Disappointed, but I wonder if there is still confidence there, because Jake's done it in the past. You alluded to that there. He even actually said on social media, social words were P9 and P10. I back myself to still do really well here. Yeah, I mean, we, certainly if we look at our history of qualifying through season 9, I mean, we haven't really performed in qualifying. I think it's something we're still trying to work on, but we've always raced well, and the Porsche powertrain has always demonstrated it's very, very efficient. And we hope here. I mean, it's a different race to what we saw in Cape Town. I mean, it's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be energy demanding. With the heat, I think the battery's going to take a toll on it. So we'll see. But can we get on the podium? I don't know, but we've gotten on the podium from this far back in the past. So I think we'll have to hand it over to Jake on this one. We look forward to seeing it. Thanks, Roger.
All right, thank you.
Antonio Felix da Costa won the last one, second on the grid for this one. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It feels good. Look, obviously we know Porsche's proven to have a very fast package in race trim, but we have been struggling a little bit with qualifyings, and it's good. We put our energy between the last race and now in improving qualifying, and it's good to see that we're obviously worked in the right direction. And look, it's just, man, I'm loving my life at the moment, racing for Porsche, winning races for them, finally being able to produce fast laps. It's a great feeling.
Do you get a discount?
I do. Do you want one?
Yeah.
You want one?
100.
You have to wait 2 years, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I cannot move you up the list.
Oh, that's a shame. Never mind. Anyway, Nelson, let's go back to the racing. Let's bring in Stoffel. Let's bring in you both together. Obviously, you're really good friends. It's extremely competitive.
I set up the car for him the last few years. So
there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much.
What's it like out there? Let's have just a general summarization of the track.
Horrible. Entry over?
Why is it horrible?
Yeah. I don't know. It's like it's a special tarmac, and then it's like changing on the entry. So I feel like every lap that I'm going there, I don't know what to expect. So I just pray. And
I'm not the only idiot then.
Tell us the truth. What's going to be? Who's going to get whose toe in the race? Who's going to back off? Stoffel, you're going to let him by? Let him spend some more energy?
I do my own thing.
I push
We'll see.
flat out.
So both going to push.
Yeah. I've seen what he did in Cape Town, so.
But I would imagine,
that wasn't on purpose.
I would imagine that the lead is going to change a couple of times.
I think so. Look, it's obviously we all know it by now that this car is extremely effective on the slipstream and very draggy. So look, we're going to try and do our own race, play our attack modes well. I think everyone's having the same thing in mind, but we can't just be letting people through, you know. So honestly, we're just going to do it as we go. And
who do you think is going to be the biggest threat coming from the back? Mitch? Who do you think is going to be really quick?
Good guys
I think the top 5 is always, 5, 6, 7. There's some really good drivers there, and like we just said, with the tow effect, the energy advantage you can build, depending how the race pans out towards the end, there could be some big differences. So yeah, let's see.
It's not called Formula Easy.
Listen, gentlemen,
thank you.
I love it. I do. Sometimes I struggle, Antonio. I really do with your sense of humour. I know I'm just a little bit slow. But congratulations to you both. Once again, a stunning show, and we absolutely loved it. So if you'd like to hand
600s?
600. Yeah.
600s, there you go. So there's a lot in it. If you give your mic to Mike, he's actually called Mike. Can you believe it? Our microphone guy. There you go. So gentlemen, Stoff, congratulations. Cheers, buddy. You can go. I'm serious about the discount, though. All right, 100%. There you go. That's what gives me so much joy about Formula E, is that we have a really competitive
and respectful
group of drivers. We have teams who are throwing everything into this racing series. And we get great results like that awesome qualifying session.
And the reason is because the cars are very similar. Okay, we have different manufacturers, different powertrains, but it's limited the amount of things you can change. So, I mean, the car is very similar, and it comes down to the driver. You know, I mean, you see one weekend Jeff starting up front, the other weekend he doesn't get everything together. Now Stoffel's up front, so it's down to the driver over here to really make the difference and get the car winning races, championships, pole positions, and all this stuff.
And obviously, it's a brand new car, so there's still a lot of data to draw out of all the systems that make up this Gen 3 car, and I think we've got a long way to go to see what this car can really do. Let's go over to Nikki because she's with Mitch Evans.
Well, Mitch Evans, first of all, congrats, starting from P3 on the grid. Let's first of all talk about going up against Sam Baer. I mean, you put in an absolutely solid lap there in the semi-final.
Yeah, Sam was super quick in the group stages. I wasn't as comfortable. Yeah, and then I knew I needed to do a really strong lap against Sam, and I felt good during the lap and was able to put it together. So yeah, I was happy with that. I just couldn't replicate exactly the same lap for the semi against Antonio, but you know, nonetheless, to have both cars in the duels, me and P3, look, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's a great result for Jaguar at the moment. When you went up against Antonio Felix da Costa, was there a particular moment, a mistake, or did he just have better flat-out pace?
No, I think we had the pace, to be honest, but I started the lap actually with a lot of wheel spin, so I actually was a little bit down into turn 1. And then I recovered it back, and then I just actually didn't get turn 8 well. I got the curb awkwardly, and I couldn't commit to the throttle, and I just lost a little bit of time. But look, it's just fine margins in this category, especially when you get to the pointy end of the duels, you have to get it perfect. And I lost like a 1/10.5 or 2/10 compared to my previous lap. So, and that was enough to knock me out. But look, P3 is still good. And I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out on top in the final.
Yeah, we're very excited about also seeing sort of, I think, what's going to happen at the first turn in the first race here in Sao Paulo. What are your predictions?
Hopefully I get through okay, unscathed. I think beyond that, look, I think track position here is not super critical in terms of from the starting point of view, but the race, the strategy is going to be really important. It's going to be a challenge to get that right. So we'll be, from now until then, we're going to be trying to put our heads down and try and execute a good race.
Thanks very much, Mitch Evans. Well done.
Yeah, well done, Mitch Evans. I do love the livery of the DS Penske car. The gold really sparkles and really pops in the sunshine. Yesterday, you went out in this new Gen 3 car. Tell us the difference between this one and the previous one.
Look, I definitely felt much more power. The car's much lighter, and where you find the weight, where I noticed it, is in the change of direction in the corners. I mean, you just turn in the car really much more racier, you know, much lighter, and so the car is becoming much quicker, much more physical, obviously, for the driver. The quicker the car gets, the more your reaction you have to work on it, the closer you get to the walls, and everything becomes faster. So your mind needs to think much quicker, you need to react much quicker. And it's just, the car is getting really fun to drive. So I was really surprised yesterday.
Can you tell the difference between single motor and dual motor? Because this has a motor at the front as well now.
Well, the way I was driving, I don't think it has everything turned on.
Right.
I know they were testing 50 kilowatts in the front, which I did feel when I was accelerating everything on the straight. You could feel the car pulling a little bit different from real traction, where you don't feel that. So it does feel a bit different. But no, the car is amazing. I mean, it's, gosh, I wanted to race this.
He's getting a little bit jealous. All right, let's talk about the rest. We've got Stoffel van Dorn on pole. He's being chased by the winner from Cape Town, Antonio Felix da Costa. There's a lot of chat about these long straights, heavy braking into corners. They may switch positions. Are you still going to go with Stoffel for the win?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I think it was in good pace for qualifying. For the race, it's gonna be a chess game. You know, I mean, they're all going to be changing toes. They're going to be changing all kind of, I don't know. It's going to be a big mystery.
Yeah, it's going to be a great race, and make sure you join us a little bit later on, live from Sao Paulo.
Formula E returns to South America, bringing the party to Brazil. Jake Dennis wins.